I heard about karma, and the person that told me about it didn't know very much himself. So it was just a general concept, as you sow, shall you reap idea. Somehow at that time when I heard it, I just went, wow. So I started looking at my own life like, I got to change a lot of things because a lot of things I'm doing are not going to be good for me later. And of course, if it's not good for me, it's probably not good for others either. You're learning, hey, I got to be careful here. Life is serious stuff. It's not just fun and games, and you just do whatever you want. Make your own rules, because we don't make our own rules. We do, but we don't. We think we do, but we don't.
People often say what goes around comes around, but how does the law of karma actually work? And can I change my destiny or where I'm going in life? Welcome to the Breaking Trail podcast with me, Ruben, and my friend and teacher, Balakhilya. This is where you learn to navigate life's journey through ancient wisdom. Today's talk about karma, so happy to have you here, and let's begin. So you're changing backgrounds here, yeah?
Yeah, a little bit, and kind of in keeping with your mountain mood.
But you do have real mountains, but I guess you live you have the sort of the fake mountains behind you, but I know that you have real mountains as well.
Oh, we have very real mountains here. Believe me.
More real than here, probably.
Yeah, I would think so. Actually, it's the beginning of the Himalayan chain, so
yeah,
it's quite significant. Yeah,
the Norwegian mountains are very, mild. They look kind of cool, but they're not that high.
Yeah. Yeah, it's mountains are mountains, though. They say there's only one thing better than mountains, and that's more mountains.
Right. Yeah.
So those of us who really appreciate the mountains, either place is good.
No, that's one of the reasons that I moved to Norway, actually, was the mountains.
Yeah.
Something in it. So
people don't like them, but, I personally like them a lot.
Yeah, I guess it gives some kind of contrast to life. Like I lived in Colombia. Now we're kind of going on off a tangent here, but I was living in Colombia for a while, and just, one climate all the time. It was just the Swedish summer all the time, 18 degrees, cloudy, no change in weather. I prefer it when it's some change.
Variety. Yeah. And mountains are very stoic, Nature's in general in the mode of goodness, but mountains are kind of like on the high end of the mode of goodness experience because it's so quiet and stoic. And that's why yogis go to the mountains when they want to go into solitude and, go deep within. Whereas the beach, for instance, the water's always moving, there's a lot of action.
Right.
And that's, of course, still a mode of goodness, but it's more passionate goodness, So if you look at the lifestyles of people that live in the mountains and live by the sea, people in the mountains are much more goodness-oriented than people at the sea, where all the action is and the discos and the, of course, that's only the resort areas of the sea. But the point is, it attracts passion, whereas mountain attracts more solitude and quietness, and
that's true.
So on. Anyway, just like you say, off on a tangent, but
that's
something.
All right.
Yeah, something I've observed over years, spending a lot of time both in the mountains and by the sea, because I lived by the sea for years, and surfed every day, and that was a whole nother mood. Then you go to the mountains and it's like, wow, just quiet and still and stoic, I think, is a very descriptive word.
I guess maybe many Norwegians won't understand that word, but I can understand approximately what you mean. At least I haven't heard that word before.
Oh, really? Well, you can Google it.
Thank you.
Wikipedia will tell you.
Stoic. Yeah. No, but We're gonna move from mountains to karma. And we were discussing. We've been sort of around the concept of karma. We've been discussing a lot of things. We were discussing death and speaking how karma is one thing that affects where you will be ending up after you die. So, but we figured that karma and reincarnation might be a too big topic for this one podcast. So I think we're going to just dive into karma for now.
Yeah.
Could you please define karma for us, Balakhilya, quickly, so we know what we're talking about here?
Well, karma actually, it means action. That's the definition of it. It's a Sanskrit word. And we have to also be informed that in the material world, there are laws of material nature that govern the material world. And for instance, on planet Earth, there's the law of gravity. And so we're all under the control of the law of gravity, And whether you believe it or not, it still controls us, So for the skeptic, there's no such thing as gravity, I don't believe it, then you can just ask the person to climb up to the top of the roof and jump off. And he experiences the reality of gravity, So this is the idea. And so karma is one of the laws of material nature.
It's not a matter of perception, but a matter of just reality.
Yeah, it's not a thought-up thing like, I think there is karma. It's a reality, that is one of the controlling factors on our lives. And so as I said, it's action. The word karma means action. So you could say the law of karma is the law of action. And you could also say it's the law of cause and effect. For every action, there's a reaction.
Which is
Actually, I learned that in physics many years ago before I heard of karma.
Right.
For every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction.
You push one direction and it pushes, like I push my table and the table pushes back, yeah?
Yeah, exactly. Or, different scriptures talk about it. They describe it in slightly different ways, but it's the same idea. As you sow, so you reap, or what goes around comes around. I remember there was a song based on this idea, and it says, everything you do is going to come back on you. So that's the idea of karma. It's not like we're independent to do whatever we want and nothing will happen as a result. We are independent and we can make our choices and do, quote, what we want, but there will be a repercussion. There will be a reaction to that activity.
And that links pretty well to, I think a lot of people think about the question of destiny. Whether you create your own destiny or whether there's a predetermined destiny that you're destined to follow.
Well, it's the same thing, really. Destiny is your karma. Your karma is your destiny. And we do create our destiny. We're creating our destiny right now for the future. But many people fail to understand that, we are eternal spirit souls, and so we live in many different lifetimes, if you take a lifetime to indicate the period between birth and death. So now we're in this lifetime, meaning this sojourn in this body started, it actually starts at conception in the womb, and it will continue until I leave the body at what is called death, and then that will be described as our life. So if we're only in the body for 5 years, then they say, he had a very short life. But if we're in the body for 100 years, then it will be declared, he had a very long life, you see. But the soul is eternal. And these lives that we refer to are just temporary stopovers in a particular place at a particular time, and it's filled with a particular set of activities. So in a previous life, or actually innumerable previous lives, we've been very active. So the soul is active by nature, and we've been very active. We can't not be active, and this is verifiable by looking at any living entity, whether it's a tree or whether it's a bug or whether it's a human, and you're always going to find activity going on. See? Because the soul is present inside that particular body. So a tree looks like, there's not much going on there. But of course, didn't we learn in botany in school or biology that, wow, there's so much going on in a tree, Nutrition is drawn from the soil, and sap is rising, and growth is taking place, and photosynthesis is taking place at the leaves, and fruit is being produced, and whatever. See? Mm. Because there's an active person inside that body at that time. So now that soul is living a tree life. And so anyway, we could get involved in a lot of discussion there. But so when we take birth now in this particular lifetime, we're bringing with us the results of our previous activities. And so therefore, that's why there's so much seeming inequality just at birth, And it seems like, it's so unfair, because this person is born crippled and this person is born perfectly healthy. That's not fair. Or this person is born into a rich family and this person is born in Somalia and has to struggle just to survive. That's not fair. Or some person's born in one race which happens to be discriminated against what is deemed as a superior race. That's not fair. And on it goes.
You have a baby who dies after, 1 or 2 years old, hasn't even been able to experience the world or enjoy the world, and just...
Yeah, and so people think, well, there's no fairness here. Somebody's, partial. And of course it oftentimes leads back to God, Mm. And so God is partial because he made this person suffer and this person have all the good times, But if you understand the law of karma, then you understand that result is due to previous activities. See? So we take our birth where we do, at a particular place, at a particular time, to a certain set of parents, a certain father, a certain mother. We have certain siblings, all due to karma, And so indirectly, we choose all these things. It's not like somewhere in the line say, okay, I want to be born in Norway, and I want my mom to be this lady, and I want my dad to be this man, and, I want Reuben to be my brother.
And that's what I thought before. That's the way I thought that it worked,
I'm the doer.
Yeah.
But if that were really true, why would a person choose to be born in such a difficult situation?
That's an obvious question. Yeah.
Why would some person decide, okay, this lifetime I want to be born in Somalia, where there's a war going on at the moment, and, I'll be racked with fear and I won't have enough to eat, and, I'll be on the verge of starvation, except, nobody would choose that.
Well, there's some people who say there's always where that argument comes in that you come here to learn. So that's great for you. You have all the suffering because you come here to learn. So now you have more to learn from.
Yeah, but that's not a viable argument because the person who's learning that lesson is trying to escape.
Yeah.
Stay there and learn your lesson. No, I want out of here. I don't want to learn this lesson. You see. And why is it that people are so upset? Why are people that are on a charitable, agenda trying to help these people? Just leave them alone. Let them learn their lesson.
Yeah.
So anyway, many arguments can be presented to try to, debunk the truth. But the truth is still true. And So reality is, it's our karma, you know.
And well, that's not perhaps a very, many people who say, put it like this, many people who come to the idea of karma is saying that there's justice. They feel perhaps that it's not a very compassionate way of seeing it, because they think that, okay, you have your karma, you just have your karma, and I don't even have to try to help you because you're reaping your karma, and that's how it should be. And they feel that it's a very incompassionate way of seeing things.
Well, that depends on the person who's heard about karma and is viewing the other person's situation. I mean, there's many people that are not compassionate at all and know nothing about karma. You know, they're just exploitative, and they look down on the people who are suffering as just obstacles in society that need to be removed, and on it goes. You know, that's your problem. You take care of it. And it's not about karma. It's just because they're so self-centered, so hard-hearted. You know, so a person is compassionate whether he sees that person's suffering because of karma, or he sees it, you know, from the way I just described. He just doesn't care, you know. Mm-hmm. So a part of the understanding of life is, yeah, people are suffering, but we want to try to help those people. And then rather trying to let them suffer and learn their lesson that way, try to educate them, you know, and make it so they're not acting in a certain way now. It's going to just continue the whole suffering scenario in the future. You know, wisen people up, you know, let people have another understanding of how to live. You know, there is a better way to live. And so real compassion is a condition of the heart. It's not a mental thing, you know. And like we were speaking about Buddhism, you know, a couple of weeks ago, or whatever it was. And that's one of their main tenets is compassion, you know, deep compassion, you know, for others. And it's part of the teaching. And it's part of the teaching of every source of truth, you know. We should have compassion. You know, that's why the great masters come into this world and try to help people, you know, both physically and spiritually. So, you know, like a hard-hearted person, no matter whether they know about karma or not, is still hard-hearted. So it's just normal for an elevated person, conscious elevated person, to care about people, you know, to want to help them materially, but also spiritually, you know. And that's the whole philosophy of Bhakti Yoga.
And that's starting with trying to educate people, or trying to give them the understanding by which they can come to determine themselves where they want to go, would you say?
Yeah, exactly. Just like this law of karma, when I first heard about it, I mean, it was many years ago. It was 1967, actually. I can remember the time, place, and circumstance. And I heard about karma, and the person that told me about it didn't know very much himself. So it was just a general concept, you know, as you sow, shall you reap idea. And I was raised a Christian, and I had heard that phrase from the Bible many times, but I never really paid much attention, you know. But somehow at that time when I heard it, I just went, wow. So I started looking at my own life like, I got to change a lot of things, because a lot of things I'm doing are not going to be good for me later. And of course, if it's not good for me, it's probably not good for others either. You know, if we do something that's not good for ourselves, it's also simultaneously not going to be good for other people. So anyway, I actually started changing some things. You know, I quit doing this. I didn't do that. I was more careful about what I did, what I said, and so on. It just made me a little more aware that I'm responsible for what I'm doing. You know, it made it more a life of responsibility than a carefree life. Like, who cares? Do it. If you want to do it, do it. Don't worry about it, So that's the point. A little education, and it doesn't really have to be much, can actually light a fire or make a person think or instill some consideration, this like that.
We were actually speaking about this yesterday. I just remember now, one of my friends, Frank, he told a story about how he had, we were speaking about how he changed to a vegetarian diet, and I was telling my story that it's just very gradual and very hard to make it happen. But he said once he heard about karma, and this is, he on that day, he just said, I'm not going to eat meat, just from an intelligence point of view.
Yeah. It took me a little while after that first hearing about karma to connect it with food. I didn't connect it right away. It was maybe a year or two later when I started putting the whole picture together. Because, like I said, the person didn't have much information to give me. But if he had said at that time, look, this food you're eating is part of that picture, and if you eat meat, then, there's a lot more negative karma going to come back to you than if you eat just fruits and vegetables and so on. If he'd have said that, I would have taken very strong consideration there. I said, wow, I never thought of it, but thank you very much. But he didn't. So it took me a while of, progression and reading and associating with people and so on to kind of start connecting the dots.
Can you? I remember you told a story once about how that happened to you. You were still serving. You were working in a restaurant and working with. You remember?
Yeah, I remember very well. Yeah, I had been by that time. I was working as a waiter in a steakhouse, and so when I started that job, and I'd been a waiter previously some years, I paid my way through university, waiting tables and so on. So it allowed me all day to surf, and then at night I worked as a waiter, and I made enough money to support my lifestyle. And I wasn't a vegetarian, and then, gradually by reading more books and, listening to some things about yoga and so on, I started going, And also I went to a lecture given by a food guru. At that time he was high up on the list, Paul Bragg. He still got his books out there. He's long ago left the planet. But anyway, and he was, very much promoting, a healthy diet, and it did not include meat. And so I was always interested in health. And so anyway, gradually I became a vegetarian while working at the steakhouse. And they had an elaborate salad bar as part of the menu. And so I could eat from the salad bar. And I mean, it was full tilt, with all the avocados and all the good things you could eat.
When was this? I mean, that's unusual for a restaurant now.
Oh, that was late 67 when I started it. Or actually, 67, 68. Yeah. And so anyway, I became a vegetarian and strict vegetarian and was loving it. But at the same time, I'm serving all these, meat-based dinners to the customers. The sizzling steaks and the filet mignons and the lobster tails and whatever. And so as I would be giving the person their dinner, okay, sir, here is your sizzling platter, I'd be thinking, if that guy knew how much karma he was getting from eating that, then he probably wouldn't eat it. And so I'm feeling quite high on the horse, I'm in an elite group, and I'm kind of looking down at this guy. And so this went on for some time. And then I, got more involved in my spiritual practices and moved to an outer island in Hawaii, Kauai. And after some time, now I'm fruitarian. I don't even eat vegetables hardly, and no breads and whatever. I mean, just really narrowed it down to some
At that
select
time, yeah.
foods. But it was a perfect place, Hawaii, and it was all growing in our yard and surrounding forest. It was free, and, it was fantastic, the best organic tropical fruit you could eat.
Wow.
So anyway, I met my spiritual master after some months of that, and maybe a year of that. And he asked me what I did, and I told him, well, once in a while I go to Oahu, and I go to this restaurant where I used to work, and I give the waiters a night off, and I work, and it makes me a little bit of money. And that was once a month. So I had to go. Anyway, it's a long story. I was in the Coast Guard, and I had to go there for meetings. But he said, oh, wait a minute. And he went and got one of the Bhakti Yoga scriptures, Srimad Bhagavatam. And then he came back, and he opened it up to a certain passage, and he said, here, read this. And it explained that, those who are involved in the animal killing in any way, whether you, raise the animal, sell the animal for meat, transport it, cook it, buy it, cook it, or serve it, you're equally karmically responsible. And I just went, uh-oh. Because I was worried about this guy getting his karma for eating one steak, and I was serving, however many every night, 25, 30, whatever. I was getting the karma for all that. And so I never went in that restaurant again, I learned really quick because I was receptive. I understood, this is the next level of understanding. And, I thank my spiritual master that he wasn't my spiritual master at that moment. I just met him, it was brand new. But very quickly I understood this person knows what I need to know, and he's the person who can teach me what I need to know. And so that's been going on since that point.
So what are those teachings? Can you share what? Because I think that's an easy way for us to understand karma in a better way with that practical viewpoint from food.
Well, yeah, we all got to eat, right? I mean, that's just the way the body's designed. And certain bodies are designed to eat certain foods. So if you look at different species of animals, the tigers, the lions, the carnivores, their body's designed to eat meat. And that's perfect for them. Their teeth, their digestive tract, their claws, everything is equipped for that diet. And they're very healthy as a result. But if you look at a koala bear, his body's designed to eat eucalyptus leaves. You see, it's a very different design. And therefore, a designated food for him is not going to work for other species. And therefore, he lives in a certain area where there's eucalyptus trees growing. And the lion lives in a place where there's an abundance of, zebras and the different water buffaloes and things that he eats to support his lifestyle. When it comes to human, now we're evolved to a much higher level than the animals, And our body is different. It's not the same, We're evolved physically, but we're also evolved mentally, and we're evolved intellectually. So the diet for humans is a vegetarian diet, It's a mode of goodness diet. It does not involve killing animals. The human body is designed, if you look at the teeth, the digestive system, the whole structure of the intestines and what is required, the fiber and all the things to move, the food through the system. All that comes from vegetables, and the fat proportion is right. Everything is right. The minerals and the vitamins and so on from fruits and vegetables and nuts and seeds and grains is perfect for the human form. And it nourishes the brain as well, And it includes dairy products, which some people will, have some argument about. But we're following the Vedic teaching, and Ayurveda medicine is one of I won't say one, I'd say it is the most authoritative medicine system of all, because it's coming from these ancient Vedic scriptures. It's been passed down through our Vedic masters since time immemorable, really. And so dairy is supported, and it's, described why, and there's a lot of information about how to use dairy, which a lot of people that use dairy have no idea about. So the misuse of dairy products can cause physical problems, But anyway, that's another long story. So if we learn these things, then we become, by nature of the diet, more compassionate. So you're more ethically concerned about another animal. You don't want to kill a cow just to satisfy your tongue. You don't need to. The lower forms of life, the plants and the fruits and so on. They're living entities and they must be killed too, but the suffering is much reduced. Their awareness, they're more covered. Their awareness is lower, etc. Yeah, they're aware, but not on the same level as a cow. For instance, the cow tries to run away, whereas the plant does not. And so on and so on. And, of course, now the whole idea of climate change and everything is just a confirmation that a vegetarian diet is better. 52% of greenhouse gases, according to recent studies, are from the animal food industry. Well, if everybody's a vegetarian, you've reduced it 52%, And cows, they produce the dairy products, but if they're treated properly, they're always talking about cow farts, right?
Yeah.
Methane gas from the cows. You know why it's such a big problem? Because they feed them corn. Cows are not designed to eat corn. They're designed to eat grass. They're designed to drink fresh water from streams. And all of that makes their digestion work properly. Yeah, there may be some methane release, but it's nothing like the way they're now put in feedlots and, fed food that they shouldn't even be eating. And the whole, look at a person, a human. If he eats the wrong food, he has a lot of gas, right?
I was just going to say, but I don't know if it's methane, but...
It's just how it is. You don't eat the right diet for your constitution, you're going to have a lot of problem with gas. Well, look at the cows, and there's millions and millions of cows in feedlots waiting to be slaughtered. And they're given... So don't blame the cows. Blame us who are misusing the cows. And the karma from all of that is huge. Individually, collectively, and people can't connect it. They won't accept it. This is unfortunate because they can't accept that how we as the human species act has the biggest impact on the planet.
No, because you have to change, and that's a hard thing. Karma is easy to accept in a perspective where, it's kind of like I just do good deeds and I have compassion for my neighbor. But when you have to change things and you have to start eating in a different way, or you don't have to, but you know what I mean?
Of course. Yeah. People don't want to change. I like it the way it is. Or so what? I don't care. I'm going to eat it anyway. I'm not going to change.
Yeah.
And so, yeah. And it bleeds out, if you will, or it expands to many different aspects of society rather than just, the health and so on. My spiritual master, Bhaktivedanta Swami, he made a comment which was very, very revealing, I would say. It was during the time of the Vietnam War when he was in America, and he said, as long as there's slaughterhouses in places like Chicago, there will also be slaughterhouses in places like Vietnam, In other words, we don't connect that our eating meat, especially cows, but other, animals as well, has anything to do with the wars, has anything to do with, the shortage of rain and this and that, and on it goes. See, they can't accept that we have a big responsibility of humans for not only our well-being, but the well-being of all other species on the planet, you know. So to satisfy our desire for meat, we cut down the rainforest, which are the lungs of the planet, you know, and, you know, graze cattle on that, you know, land is not supposed to be barren. Now it's supposed to have all these lush tropical, you know, jungle basically, and it just is depleted in almost no time, and then it's just worth nothing. But who cares? Because, you know, there's good money here. You know, and how many species go extinct, you know, every hour or every day? There's figures I don't have in my fingertips right now because of all this. But again, basically we don't care, you know. It's just as long as I got my little life as I wanted, I'm fine with that. Mm.
So I do. So the people who might listen to this, see this, are probably people who do care. Well, so let's say that we are someone who cares. What can you do about it? That's a big question.
Well, you can't do much about what everybody else does. I mean, to a degree, you can try to join activist groups and, you know, or plant trees or whatever. But really, first we got to change ourselves. You know, the individual has to change his self, his ideas, his outlooks, his vision, his consciousness, and his practical way of living, you know. And a lot of times compassion for animals is so selective. You know, maybe we're, you know, very attached to the idea of, you know, killing seals is bad. You know, don't kill the baby seals for their fur. So we may support Greenpeace, or we may even be joining Greenpeace and going and protecting the seals from the seal hunters. But that morning before we went out to protect them, maybe we had bacon and eggs for breakfast, you know, and a steak that night when we come home. So don't kill the seals, but it's okay to kill the cows, you know. And so again, it's just more sentimental based than real compassion for living entities and not wanting to see anyone suffer, you know. So we have to, again, change our life and our understanding. And a unique thing is a vegetarian diet actually, you know, clears us of a lot of hard-heartedness and a lot of, you know, self-centeredness, and makes it so I do feel more compassion for other living entities, you know. And if I feel compassion for other living entities, I can also more readily feel compassion for humans, you know, and want to help, you know, make their life better, etc.
But many times, from my experience at least, and this is, I think that maybe karma is seen as, well, if you are perhaps not a person who does have that compassion, or no, let me put it like this. I think that karma may be seen as a way to pay back to a person who's done you bad. You know, I was just Googling about karma, and I found a question. One of the main questions about karma was, will karma get my ex for hurting me? And the answer is, when your ex dumped you and hurt you, he or she created a lot of karma that they will have to pay for. Their karma and their actions will come back around and hurt them in the exact same way as they hurt you and when they dumped you. So, yes, karma will get your ex so hard that they won't even know what hit them.
Yeah, but and it's true. The answer is correct. But again, you know, we shouldn't use the law of karma in a vindicative way. You know, we're going to get you through karma. You know, it's true. I mean, everything you do is going to come back on you. But we don't want to have that envy or that, you know, that jealousy or that hate. You know, okay, you're going to suffer, and I'm happy about it. You know?
Yeah, you deserved it.
You deserved it. Good on you, and I hope they double the karma. You know, see that's a certain hard mentality, hard heart that is against our well-being. It's just not good. It's not a good mindset. It's not a good way to be. You know, and so we want to try to be compassionate and forgive. You know, that's one of the main teachings of Bhakti Yoga is forgiveness. You know, and but not only Bhakti Yoga. I mean, well, when I say Bhakti Yoga, you know, that should be understood as meaning the highest level of spiritual perfection and love and compassion and mercy, etc. You know, it doesn't have to be under the label of Bhakti or Christian or Hindu or whatever, Buddhism or whatever. It's just, you know, a higher consciousness that is based on a spiritual experience of love. So it said the essence of life is love, and the essence of love is forgiveness. So if we are beginning to live a lifestyle that's, you know, cultivating that love, especially love for God, then accompanying that must be forgiveness. You know, I can't say I love God, but I want somebody to suffer because they did me wrong. You know, look at the perfect example of that is, you know, Lord Jesus Christ. I mean, he was unjustly persecuted in so many horrendous ways, and yet at the very end, his last request to his Father, the Lord, was, please forgive them, for they don't know what they're doing. They know not what they do. See, so to the end, he was asking that they be forgiven, indicating that he had already forgiven them, and he's appealing to the Lord to forgive them as well. You see, so, you know, again, we can use any truth in a correct way or an incorrect way. You know,
What's the correct way to see karma? There's a quote from the Yoga Sutras that I'd like to share, perhaps, that is giving us some. This is from Patanjali, Yoga Sutras 2:15, and he says, "To the discriminating yogi, all the fruits of past actions, both pleasurable and painful, are considered sorrowful because they all result in further bondage and suffering."
Yeah. You know, as long as we have any karma, even if it's all good, and good luck on that, it means we still have to take another birth in the material world, in a material body, to get the rewards. Because good karma comes with rewards. So that means I'm still on the wheel of birth and death, and this is not where I, the spirit soul, should be. Our real home is in the spiritual world. So good karma ultimately is not good for the soul. See, it may be so good, I may have accumulated so many pious activities that I will actually take birth in a higher heavenly planet where life is so pleasurable that we can't even imagine it. When we read the descriptions in the Vedic scriptures of life on higher heavenly planets, it's like totally unbelievable because we have no experience of anything like that on this planet. See, but it's true, but it's still on the wheel of birth and death. And that's why Lord Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, from the highest planet in the universe, which is Brahmaloka, to the lowest planet, Patalaloka, all are places of misery, of repeated birth and death. See? So, good karma, if understood in that way, is not a good thing. So the real yogi understands that. So the good times, materially speaking, are not good. So that's why it says we must learn to tolerate happiness and distress. See, it's easy to accept the idea of tolerating distress. That makes sense. But to tolerate happiness doesn't make sense to us who are trying to enjoy the world. And that's our whole goal, is to have as much happiness as possible.
Yeah.
And to say you should tolerate that, it's like going against everything that we thought was important. But if you transcend that material vision and have true spiritual vision, you understand it perfectly clear. So what you read from Patanjali is exactly that idea. The true yogi who sees correctly sees, good karma and bad karma as sad, because it keeps us in the material world.
And that's
Birth, disease, old age, and death.
and that's the reason that you need to tolerate happiness. That kind of happiness will keep you in the material world.
Yeah. And it disturbs the mind, doesn't it? I mean, it's also stated in Bhagavad Gita that a person cannot be truly tranquil, truly peaceful, as long as he's disturbed by the dualities of the material world. So one of those is happiness and distress. Happiness is a disturbing thing too. Wow, it's so great. I'm going to go out and enjoy, it's all like I want it to be. I'm disturbed by that. I'm not peaceful. I'm agitated to the end, and the mode of passion is just, fuel and so on. I'm always a pleasure seeker, which is not really my true position, you see. So it's not good.
How does it?
Go ahead.
No, how does it fit along with? We spoke last week about satisfaction. Well, I think many perhaps wonder, isn't happiness a goal?
It is, but it's not the happiness of the material world, the happiness of sense perception. See, and again in Bhagavad Gita, in the 2nd chapter, Lord Krishna says that, happiness and distress come like the winter and the summer seasons, and they arise from sense perception of skiyana bharata, and one must learn to tolerate them. See? Sense perception, I'm perceiving this as happiness, I'm perceiving this as distress. See? But I must transcend the world of sense perception and know that happiness for the body and the mind is not satisfying the soul. That's what we were talking about last time. There's physical, mental, intellectual stimulation, which comes with the moniker of happiness. And then there's real happiness, where the soul is satisfied in the loving relationship of service with the Supreme Soul. That is natural for the soul, and that is the goal. But if I'm always, focusing on the temporary happiness of this world, I never reach that. I don't even understand that. I can't go beyond the bright lights of material pleasure, which isn't really pleasure, and it quickly the lights pale and the lights go out, and then I'm in the darkness of, the misery. So nobody can maintain a perfectly happy life in the material world. You even go to the heavenly planets. The formula for being qualified to reach the heavenly planets is the accumulation of a lot of pious activities. Those activities are described in the Vedic scripture. See, so you perform certain rules, regulations, rituals, worship various demigods in certain ways. In other words, it's just very regulated, prescribed procedure. This accumulates a lot of pious activities, and therefore when you take birth on one of the higher heavenly planets, depending on a whole formula. But as soon as you've exhausted the results of your pious activities, you come back down to the middle planet, which planet Earth is one of those middle planets. It's like if you work very hard and accumulate a lot of good points, you get to go to Hawaii for But when you use up all the points, okay, then you got to come back.
Can you create for more points when you're in Hawaii?
No, you come back here and create points.
So it's not possible in those in Hawaii too. It's not possible to maintain yourself there and create
No. You use them up and you come back.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the system. We don't make the system. Yeah, so yeah, but a person just coming back to real basic stuff, if we accept there is a law of karma, that I'm responsible for my actions, then I have to learn what actions should be performed and what actions should not be performed. See, let's just keep it on the basis of good and bad karma. See, many times we don't even know what generates good karma and what generates bad karma. Because now, especially as things are being changed, as far as what is good and what is bad, what's allowed, what is not allowed, what is okay, what is not, the whole, paradigm has been changed, and, things that are obviously not good are seen as good. So, because a vast majority of people declare it to be fine, it's okay. In fact, it should be done. So therefore, unknowingly, we may be thinking we're doing the right thing, the good thing, when reality is it's creating so much future suffering. That's why we need to have a real authority, not an authority based on opinion or feelings or emotions or sentiments, but authority, and that authority will tell us this is what should be done, this is what not should be done. So that's one thing that's stated again in Bhagavad Gita. It talks about two natures, divine nature and demoniac nature. And divine nature is that nature of a person that is, it is based on Scripture. It's following Scripture. And if you read the divine qualities, it's honesty and truthfulness and compassion and mercy and on the good qualities go, non-attachment and on and on. And if you look at that list of qualities, don't steal and all the moral principles included, you can see, well, yeah, that's going to be good for that person. It's going to be good for society. If everybody had those qualities, what a different world it would be. And then it describes the demoniac qualities, of lust and anger and greed and jealousy and envy and etc., low moral principles and whatever, And so that comes from a certain consciousness too. So it said that, those in this demoniac consciousness, they do not know what is to be done and what is not to be done. They just don't know what is to be done and what is not to be done. So they wind up doing things that shouldn't be done, which creates a lot of bad karma for them. But as I mentioned before, it's also not good for other people as well, And so the idea with a lot of people who have a lot of capabilities, let's say a person's highly learned in some science, the scientist, for instance, And so the idea among many of these, I'm not saying all, but many is, it's not what should be done, but what can I do? See? Oh, we've discovered this. We can now do this.
Yeah.
But, okay, you can do it, but should you do it? Is the result of your ability to do this a good thing for you, for other people, for society in general, for other living entities other than humans? Is it a good thing? Should you do it? And this is where the principles come in. I can do it, but I shouldn't do it, And so that's not being promoted. That's not being taught. And nobody really knows these things unless we go to a real authority. In the Vedic scriptures, the true spiritual masters, and they can enlighten us into that, you see. Yes, I can do many things, but I don't do it because it shouldn't be done.
But when there was a person who was just writing about this, like on the topic of when we realize this, what we should do, and she says, when we're faced with the truth of how we are and how we've been, and we can't see a reasonable way out of experiencing the unpleasant results in this lifetime, and we realize we're completely screwed, we can either grin and bear it with excruciating patience, which is not easy to do without extreme suffering. We can try to escape off the nearest tall bridge, which won't work because we'll just be reborn into a situation that brings us a similar experience. Or we can pray for a miracle. Aha. Jesus.
Well, yeah. Since time immemorable, people have been trying to be atoned for their sins, right? Okay, I've committed a sin, but please, can I be excused? What atonement can I engage in? And different, religions or faith-based belief systems have different methods. Maybe I go to confession and I confess to a priest. Okay, I'm sinful. I did this and this and this, and, then he will say, well, that's not good, my son. You should do this and this to compensate for that, The Vedic scriptures are filled with different atonements that a person can engage in to remove karma. Sin and karma is the same thing. It's just a different way to say the same thing. I performed an action, it was a bad thing to do, and I'm going to suffer for it. Whether you call it bad karma or sin, it's the same. So, anyway, there are atonements, but the problem with just pursuing that direction or that solution is the thing that made me sin or do the bad acting in the first place is still there. The desire to do that is still there. The heart's condition is the same. The consciousness is still the same. So I'm constantly, if we want to use the word sinning and then working it off. Bad karma, burn off the karma. Yeah. See? So it's just like getting nowhere. I'm spinning my wheels. The example in the Vedas is given like the elephant. The elephant goes into the stream and bathes very nicely. They got a good shower, by the way. Hydraulic system. They can get very clean, and sometimes they even wash each other. It's pretty cool. But then the elephant comes out on the bank and rolls in the dirt, or picks up dust in his trunk and blows it all over himself. So he's clean and then he's dirty again. So that is not really a solution. We want a solution that actually does remove the karma, but also purifies the heart. So therefore, my desires to be that same person that I always was has changed. Now I have a different motivation in what I choose to do, see. And now you're making progress. And as that's the whole concept of bhakti yoga. You see, the mantras that we chant, they are purifying. They purify one of all karma. But at the same time, they purify the heart. So gradually that condition of heart and mind that made it so I did all those things has been purified, and I don't do them anymore. See, I've lost my desire, or at least I've gained enough intelligence to know what should be done and what should not be done. And I'm very careful not to do it, continuing all along with the purification, which makes it so gradually I don't even want to do it. See, and that's the progress that must be made. So that's why a bunch of rules and regulations in and of themselves really don't work. Okay, don't do this, don't do this, don't do this. Okay, I don't do it, but I want to do it. I want to do it, and eventually you will do it.
That's exactly how it was for me with the vegetarian diet, by the way.
Yeah. Yeah. You see. But if the heart is purified, now how is it? Is it the same?
Nope.
Oh, right. Why? Because now you've changed. Before you wanted to eat meat, and even though maybe you didn't, you really wanted to, and it was a kind of a struggle, but now it's no struggle. In fact, it's the opposite. It's like you probably, I don't know about you, but for me personally, I couldn't do it. I just wouldn't. Not only I wouldn't do it, I just couldn't do it.
Yeah.
I've lost all attraction for that subject. And I'm sure you yourself. So that's how it is in all different aspects of life, And even if somehow you looked at some, meat preparation you used to really like, and somewhere, somehow, it came out a little, wow, I'd like to have that. Really, that's not who you are. And you go, no way, man, I'm not going to do that. The mind throws out a picture or a past, remembrance, and you just go, forget that, You're just not there anymore, So it has to be approached in this way, and then you'll be successful. And yeah, along the way there's going to be some suffering, and so on like that. But again, isn't that the world we live in? I mean, there's always a lot of suffering, And another, example is, I don't know if this person who asked the question has done this or not, but a lot of us have. We've been on cleansing diets. You either fast or you drink some herbal mixtures or, certain cleansing foods.
Like a detox.
To get the toxins out of your body, yeah. You take enemas, you do all kinds of different things. And it's not a pleasant experience. And a lot of times you feel really bad. And in fact, going into it, you've been already informed, you're going to feel bad. You're going to feel weak. You're probably going to have headaches. Your bowels are going to be disturbed, and on and on, And you do the cleanse, whatever it is, and those events take place as prescribed, as predicted, but now it's kind of like you're happy because wow, it's working, Because, on the other end of that, there's going to be a good result. So the suffering or the discomfort is kind of like, in a sense, a joy, because wow, it's working, and after all this is over, I'm going to be a lot healthier, and I'm going to feel better. So, when you,
How is that related to karma? You mean that?
So as you're experiencing this karma, well, that's that much karma I'm working off. I don't have to deal with that again, because I did it, I'm getting the result, and now that's done. It's not like, it's worked off. And then you go on, and if you've adopted a new way of living, you're not going to just keep repeating that same story, just like eating food. If you just cleanse yourself nicely and you're feeling good and you just go back and eat all the crap that caused the problem in the first place, that's not intelligent, that's stupid. So again, you're aware of what's going on. You're not really just, experiencing things and you don't know why and why me kind of thing. And, I don't deserve this. And, I'm being selected for punishment when I shouldn't be. No, you've gone past all that, and, you're learning, hey, I got to be careful here. Life is serious stuff. It's not just fun and games, and you just do whatever you want. Make your own rules, because we don't make our own rules. We do, but we don't. We think we do, but we don't.
I guess because we think that we do, but there is a supreme arrangement of things, how things are.
Yeah, It's like if I'm speeding down the highway at 100, well, you guys are in kilometers, let's say 160 kilometers an hour, and the law says 100 kilometers an hour, I can think, oh, my rules, I can do whatever I want. But reality is there's a law above my law that says no. And when I get stopped, I have to pay the price.
You can do it, but it'll have a consequence.
Yeah. So, the more I learn those universal laws of conduct, then the more I know what to do. If I know the speed limit's 100, and I know I'm going to get caught, because the law of karma, you do get caught.
Every time.
It's not like the cop might not be there or the speed camera might be turned off for some reason. That's not how it works in the law of karma. We don't get away with anything. It's all known, it's all recorded, and the result will be as it should be. Everything is perfectly arranged and perfectly fair. Nobody's over-punished and nobody's under-punished. It's exactly fair.
If you understand that we're spirit soul and we keep on existing after this life that you described is over. Because...
Yeah. So, in that way, we begin to see things properly. And it's described also in the Vedic scriptures that, a person who's actually elevated in this knowledge, yogi, we'll call him an elevated yogi, when he is experiencing some suffering, he knows it's from his past activities, and he also is feeling, because of his humility, that, actually I deserved much more suffering than I'm receiving, but due to the mercy of the Lord, he's reduced it to an insignificant amount compared to what it should be. He's feeling like that, I should be suffering much more, but due to the Lord's mercy, I'm only getting a small portion. That's a very different attitude than thinking I'm getting so much more than I deserved. You're so harsh.
Yeah, I deserve so much more and I'm getting nothing. That's the other extreme.
Mm-hmm. So,
how do you come to such a state of mind? that seems like an
purification of the mind, purification of the heart, and again, that's the method of bhakti yoga. We're always encouraging people to follow this process. Not because I or anybody is looking for, big numbers. Oh, look how many people are on our team kind of thing. But because it's the life that is designated as the best possible way to live, for a person to actually become truly happy, truly satisfied, to go beyond the limitations of the material world, to actually experience true pleasure, spiritual pleasure, love, et cetera, et cetera. And so in this way, we've transcended the law of karma. The law of karma only applies to activities of the material world. But in bhakti yoga, if I am acting in devotional service to the Supreme Lord, my action is not for me. I am not doing this for the result that I may achieve. I'm doing it for the pleasure of the Lord. I'm doing it under His expert teaching and guidance. Then there's no karma there. It's karma-free. See, it's not good karma. It's not bad karma. It's no karma, And therefore, once a person begins to live in this way, see, a life of devotional service to the Supreme Lord under the guidance of Scripture and the spiritual master, not, I think this and I think that. It has to be, properly understood and guided and so on. Then he's not creating any karma. And that activity burns off previous karma. So from the time a person begins to live like this until he reaches the end of his term in this body, he's created no new karma. All previous karma has been removed. So therefore, when he leaves his body, he has no karma. So he doesn't have to take another birth to get any kind of results, good or bad, because there's no results left. And now he has actually developed a relationship of love and devotion to the Supreme Lord. And that relationship takes him back to the spiritual world. Or at least he's in the hands of the Lord, and the Lord, if he's not quite perfectly complete, he still has some more to do. He will be given a birth in a very favorable situation for him to continue the journey to perfection. See? And what we gain spiritually by our endeavors, we don't lose at the time of death. See? What we gain materially by our endeavors, money and fame and whatever it is, we leave it all behind. We die and it's still here, but we're gone. See? But our spiritual assets are like an eternal bank account, and they just keep accumulating. So if I gain 10% in this life, my next lifetime, I will start with 10% in the bank. And if I gain another 40%, then I'll have 50%, etc., until I reach 100%. And then, I can go back to the spiritual world. So there's nothing to lose. This endeavor is nothing to lose, you see.
That's an example of how this truth, how knowing that is very comforting.
Yeah, this is the real positive, thinking, if you will. People say, oh, you're so negative. This is not negative. This is the only positive solution of all. This is a positive philosophy in every respect. So, we can talk a lot about, that idea, but we're trying to stay on karma. So let's go back to food, because that's a real relative thing to everybody.
Yeah.
Everybody's eating, practically every day, minute at a time, 2-3 times or more a day.
Have to eat.
Yeah. So, as far as karma goes, even though I'm eating a pure, organic, vegetarian or vegan diet, I'm eating local, I'm eating in season, everything is according to the rules, I'm still killing. Because I have to kill to eat. I have to kill the carrot. I have to cut the head off the cabbage. See, it's inevitable. I cannot live without killing, because that's how the world is designed. So there's still karma there. It's way, way less than if I'm eating meat. The karma is so greatly reduced that, it's almost doesn't exist compared to a meat-based diet. But there's still karma. It still keeps me on the wheel of birth and death. So then the question would be, all right, well, I won't eat carrots and vegetables. I'm just going to eat fruit, because you don't have to kill the tree. I'm just going to wait until the fruit falls off the tree, because if I pick it, I might hurt the tree. So I'll just eat fruit from the ground. Okay, but you got to walk over and pick up that fruit. And what about all those people you step on the way? What about all those people living on that apple? What about the long guy living in the apple? In other words, you can't think your way out of this. We always like to be philosophers and mull the subject and, come up with a brilliant solution. But it's not going to work. It doesn't work. So what do I do with that apple or the vegetables or the fruits or whatever it is that I'm eating, I first offer them to the Lord as an offering of love before I eat them. This is the prescription in Bhagavad Gita. The Lord himself, Lord Sri Krishna says, "He who offers me with love and devotion a leaf, a fruit, a flower, or a little water, I will accept it." When the Lord accepts our offering, and remember, the main ingredients were love and devotion. You see, when I offer it with as much love and devotion as I have, a person say, "Well, I don't have any love and devotion." Well, yes, probably true, and probably we don't either to very much degree. But what we have, we use. If it's just an intention, I don't even know if you exist, God, but if you do, I want to offer you this. It can be that vague, but at least it's with what I have and what I know, I'm doing the best I can. Look, the Lord knows our heart. He knows what we're trying to do. And so he is so merciful. I mean, he's the source of mercy. He's mercy personified. He accepts it. When the Lord accepts it, he removes, number one, all the karma. Number two, that food is no longer just food. It's now spiritually purified. He empowers that food with spiritual potency. So now there's no karma and there's positive spiritual potency in that apple. If I eat that apple, I'm not getting any karma, but I'm also being spiritually purified just by eating. We have to eat anyway. So if I'm doing this with the food, and it must be vegetarian food. It can't be meat, it can't be fish, it can't be eggs. He doesn't accept meat, fish, or eggs. It's actually offensive to try to offer meat, fish, and eggs to the Lord. See, we don't want to get into that category. But if it's vegetarian foodstuffs, like I've described, meat, nuts, seeds, grains, fruits, vegetables, dairy products, then I consume that out of necessity to keep the body alive, and I become spiritually purified. I, the spirit soul, am making spiritual progress simply by the act of eating. It's called prasadam. Prasadam means mercy. It's the Lord's mercy. If I am feeling compassion for other people, I want to help somebody else on their spiritual journey, see, then I give them that apple. They eat it, they get spiritually purified, non-different than myself, and they don't know anything about it. They don't know this has been offered to God, and they don't know anything. They just, oh, thank you very much, and they eat the apple, you know.
And they don't have to know for it to have the effect.
They don't know anything, you see. Why? Because the potency is there automatically. It works. If I give offered food to an animal, a dog, a cat, you know, a squirrel, any living entity, you know, even put it around the base of a tree, and eventually that will be absorbed by the tree. That person in that body will get spiritual benefit. I am helping that person spiritually. And this is real welfare work. I'm helping the well-being of that spirit soul on his journey back to the spiritual world. See? So I become a welfare worker on the highest level. And it actually helps purify my consciousness just thinking like that. See? So it's another whole level of activity that, you know, is so beneficial.
And the amazing thing about that, I'm going to just read a short quote from Srimad Bhagavatam. It's the first canto, second chapter, text 15. Quote, with sword in hand, intelligent men cut through the labyrinthine knots of reactionary work, karma, by remembering the Lord. Therefore, who will not pay attention to his message? And the idea is, if I don't understand it wrong, that you can do these things with everything, and that's what you would call karma yoga, isn't it?
Yeah, you can do it with everything you do. Your work, your exercise routine, your food, you know, you're dealing with other people, passing on this knowledge is so much, it's very pleasing to the Lord. You know, it's so much benefit for everybody, you know. Not only the person who's doing it, but the person who's receiving it, you know. And gradually we start thinking less and less about our own benefit. Oh, I'm going to get this good thing and that good thing. And we start thinking about the people we're trying to help. You know, that becomes the focus. And along the way, of course, you're going to get amazing benefit. You know, you're becoming more endeared to the Lord because you're helping his children, And that's why this is described as the highest welfare work, because you're actually helping the Lord's children to come to know and love their Father, Let's just use an example. Let's say you are a father and you have a child out there in the world somewhere, and you've lost touch with your child. Your child has voluntarily, kind of just renounced you. And he's wandering around and he's suffering and he's, not having a good time, and that pains you, of course. Somebody meets your son and, he's forgotten who you are. And so this person who meets your son actually knows you and knows that this is your son. And he actually helps your son physically. He takes him home, feeds him, gives him a shower, clothes, whatever. See, and that's good. You're very appreciative of your friend for helping your son like that. I mean, there's no question. But then your friend tells your son, you know what? I know your father, and I'm going to take you back and take you home. And he brings him to you. Now, that's on another whole level of appreciation of you toward that person who helped your son, And that's the way it is with the Lord. I mean, the Lord is the Supreme Father. And, those who are helping, take care of his children, not only physically, but spiritually, and reintroducing them to him, you see, and helping them make the journey back. He describes in the 18th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, they're the most dear to me. They're the most dear to me.
That concept of remembering God is really amazing. Not in a sense finding God, but remembering that lost relationship with your Father.
Yeah, remembering. Yeah, so that's why we have all this information about the Supreme Lord, So we can remember him. We have something to remember. The person who says there is no God, he has no person to, how's he going to remember? He doesn't accept there even is a supreme person, So it's increments. It starts where it starts and it builds and it, maybe if you're remembering that nature is God, which it is in an indirect way. I mean, he's the creator of nature. He's the source of all the beauty of nature and the magical arrangement of nature and so on like that. And so a lot of people, they think, well, that's God. Nature is God. And they experience some amazing energy when they go into nature. They experience something very special, And they're remembering like this. This is a beginning. This is an incremental step, and it just builds and it goes on. And then you start thinking about, well, wow, nature is so wonderful. There must be some amazing artists behind this. You look at the Northern Lights, for instance, and you just go, unbelievable. Yeah. People who've never seen the Northern Lights think the pictures of the Northern Lights are like fake. It's just like some guy made that up. I mean, come on, nobody could, believe that's true.
I'm gonna make some video. I'm trying to film it somehow, but I can't do my iPhone. But I need to get a good camera so I can film it, and then I'm gonna show it on this show to all the listeners and viewers out there because that's amazing.
But then you see that, and it's another whole level. You're like, wow, whoever arranged this? I mean, the architect of this whole thing is a special guy. I mean, he's somebody special. Yeah. And like I'm saying, you're just building on that. And eventually you come into contact with, these teachings in the Vedas, and it just goes into great detail about the Lord and his abode, and you meet the one who actually knows the Lord and, is experiencing these truths. And that is even another, amazing confirmation. And all this just gives you faith and strength and enthusiasm. And you just want to know more and you want to go further and you want to be a part of this. And, And a lot of people go into nature, like the mountaineers and the true adventurers, will say again and again, many different ones from many different experiences, that when you're in this great expanse of nature, it humbles you so much. You feel so small, in comparison to the grandeur, and many times there'd be a picture of just one little guy on a mountain, and it's just like huge, expanse of the nature, wonder of nature around him. And he says, I felt so humbled, and it all is part of a program that's changing things, in your life, and yeah, it's all leading in a positive direction,
Step by step.
Step by step, So it's not like all at once. It's all or nothing, it's bit by bit, and yeah.
Is there
Life is a puzzle, but every little piece of the puzzle that you put into its proper place gives you a little better picture of the whole thing. Yeah.
Is there something that you'd like to add finally, or you feel that we've missed discussing?
Well, the thing that really is important if you want to, really achieve the benefit is desire. You got a desire to want to know these things. There has to be some inquisition here. There has to be some, some longing inside, some internal impetus to pursue this, And that's why somebody that tries to convert somebody else, it doesn't even want to be converted, convince them, prove to them, and intimidate them and threaten them basically with some kind of future damnation or whatever. It doesn't work, That person has to have some desire. But if you take that apple, which I've referred to, and you give that to a person, that purifies that person a little bit. I've seen so many people over the years that weren't attracted to the philosophy at all. Even the chanting, it was all right, or maybe they didn't even like it at all. You see, but they liked that cookie. They liked those cakes. They liked that delicious, meal that, they had. And after, this, sometime later, they start becoming interested, or, wow, that same chanting that they had no attraction for becomes, wow, I kind of like that, This is soothing, or this, this just, has some attraction for me. I don't really know why. Or this food tastes so different than any other food. I've had people ask me, why is this food so much better than other food? It's an invisible attraction there that, they can't understand, but they feel, they experience. That's why we call it the Bhakti Yoga experience. It's an experience. It's not just a philosophy. And we don't want people to just have a philosophy. We want everyone to have an experience, And so this is what is necessary, gradually. I had the desire to know these things. That's why when I heard it, it was just like, ringing a bell, like the lights went off. I mean, like, wow, this is what I want to know, And that was just my personal experience. Other people, they have some other motivation, Maybe they're suffering and they just want some relief. But it doesn't matter, It says whether you come to the Lord because of, distress or lack of money or inquisitiveness or real searching for the truth, you still come to the same place to get what you get, The Ganges River, I'm sure, most people have heard of Mother Ganga, the sacred river that, basically purifies all of India as it runs through. And people go there and bathe, and, the water is truly spiritual, and it does, remove karma, and people go there and bathe regularly. And anyway, there's a saying, if you're walking on the bank of the Ganges, whether you somebody comes and pushes you in, you slip and fall in, or you voluntarily go down and take a bath, you still get a bath in the Ganges. You know?
Yeah.
So that's kind of how it works, you know.
Best is probably if people voluntarily want to jump in and we don't push them into.
Yeah. Get in there right now. No. No.
Especially
You know,
a
it's
cold
a beautiful.
river, like flowing through
Yeah.
Norway.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. What were you saying?
It's it's an amazing journey, really. You know, it is. It's an amazing journey. So, we invite everybody to, you know, begin if you like, and you know, if we can help somehow, please allow us to do so.
Great.
Yeah.
Thanks. Yeah, let's have a chat if you have time, Balakhilya, to end this and have the experience.
Yeah. Let's do a little Sankirtan. One time we'll do more with the meditation, like a Guranga breathing session.
Yeah.
You know, to we talk about the meditations a lot, but there's a lot of difference in talking and experiencing. So, but now we're going to do a very easy meditation called Sankirtan with music. I'll play the guitar. The mantra is going to be very easy. Gauranga Nitai Gaur. Gauranga Nitai Gaur. So all you have to do is listen to what I chant and then just repeat. Gauranga. Everybody. Let I go. Oh, Ranga. Let I go. Let I go. Okay, so that is Sankirtan.
Well,
As you can see, it's very easy. Hold on a minute. Very easy and very enjoyable.
yeah.
So that's what we do. That's what we encourage other people to do. You know. And like I think we stated, I don't know, one of the last things in one of our presentations is, you know, spiritual practice is not where the fun stops, it's where the fun starts.
It's a great thing to remember. Or to experience more perhaps.
Yeah, to experience it. And so our focus is not on karma. You know, our focus is not, oh, will this be good karma? Will this be bad karma? Our focus is on pleasing the Lord, you know, taking these practices of bhakti yoga, living by those practices, you know, on a regular basis, et cetera, et cetera. And that's the focus, you know. It's not a salvationist focus. It's a, you know, focus of devotion. Let me be an instrument in your pleasure, in your service. So, yeah, karma is definitely real. We know about it. We respect it. We abide by it, but it's not the focus.
That's going to be the last word in this little podcast.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ruben, for being so hospitable,
Inquisitive as well.
inquisitive, and we thank anyone who may be joining. Thank you so much. Leave us your comments if you like.
Yeah.
You know,
Do
it's obvious we can't please everybody, but we're just trying to present these teachings, and you know, for some people it may be, you know, something they're anxious to know about.
And if you are, well, Balakhilya, I would just like to pass on a message. If you are able to send, if you know where in Srimad Bhagavatam you had this quote about he who transports the meat, I could find that.
Oh, I can find it. I know where it is. I mean, I don't know in my head, but I can get it to you.
Great. And
Okay. It'll be in your Skype tomorrow or tonight. Who knows?
yeah, thank you very much.
All right. Thank you, everybody. Namaste. Haribol.
So thank you for listening in. I hope this was very inspiring to you and that you'd like to just apply these teachings in your life and perhaps share this podcast with your friends and family. Now, do check out our link tree to get access to Patreon, where you can contribute to the podcast, or YouTube to watch this video. And I hope to see you soon again. Remember to stay true to yourself and dare to break trail.